I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, everybody, we're freshly back from the NWTF show.
I don't know about freshly, but
Yeah, you don't sound fresh at all.
What an event.
It was a great event.
It is. I heard someone say it. I didn't realize it as much because I was just so worried about pulling everything off and how we did and whatever. Someone went, that's the best energy of any show we go to, trade show, outdoor show, anything. And they were right. It is the best. It refreshes your batteries, recharges your batteries, like even when you don't get much sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
For what we do, when you just see all those people that, appreciate everything and are grateful. And I mean, you get he said, one of our employees made the comment, you get a dose of vitamin G. That always perks you up. So anyway, I really get a lot out of it. I know Dudley did.
What is vitamin G?
Grateful, dude.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Vitamin G.
Excellent. We were talking to Brett Collier, interviewing him while we were there, and he made an excellent point, is where else do you get 60,000 people with one interest that has to do with conservation? His wife is trying to fix the oceans. She's like a aquatic biologist or whatever, and she's a way up there in the rankings. And
that's great.
They can't get 60,000 people to come together to fix the oceans, but you want to get a bunch of country bumpkins to fix the turkeys, then they're going to be there.
Yep.
And we made it.
I wouldn't say country bumpkins. That was
derogatory.
Hey, you're welcome. For the record, you're welcome to call me one.
Yeah.
I'll be proud of it.
Well, it was a great event. So, but look, welcome everybody, West Point, Mississippi. Here we are doing another podcast. We've got a guest today.
Yeah, guess what? At that convention, I had a doc sighting.
Yeah, I think we all did. And he was at the Bottomland Book Club. We got to hear him talk a little bit about a new book he's got out. But, last year we had Doc Weddle on, and he's traveled all over the country killing turkeys in all the states that have turkeys. And he was such a popular guest. Mac has just constantly been like, God, we got to have Doc back on. And I agree. So, without any further ado, we invited Doc Weddle to be back on the podcast, and here he is through the magic of the telephone.
Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, good to talk to you again.
The thought popped in my head. There's an old saying, and I think about you, is like, he's forgotten more than I'll ever know about the topic, and that's probably the case.
Well, the guy that taught me turkey hunting had forgotten more about wildlife and turkeys than I'll ever know to this day. So I know exactly what you talk about. I tell you, I just want to double up what you guys said. The energy down there at Nashville was just phenomenal. I've been to a bunch of those shows, and this year just felt like it was really special. It was high energy from the day I got there to the day I left. I was able to meet Toxie for the first time. That was a thrill, and spent some time with Daniel, and it was just magical. I had a blast.
It was fun.
I'm the one that was thrilled, I promise you.
So Doc, look, so we got you on the line, and just hang on with us. We got one little thing we need to do, a little business to knock out, but we wanted you to be involved and ask a question if you had one. I'm looking across the room, we've got, guys, we've been talking about LS tractors for over a year now.
Oh, yeah.
We've been
using them for over a year.
Them, yeah, at various sizes. But we are announcing today the Gamekeeper /LS tractor giveaway.
No way.
So the tractor that we have used like all last year, that I used, Richie used, Lanny you used.
No, not Lanny, please.
Well, yeah, that's where the concrete came from on it.
Okay.
But we're going to give that tractor away.
Yeah.
So it's got a bucket, front bucket. It's got a backhoe attachment. It's got a tiller attachment. So it's a small 25 horse tractor. But what it will be is a really nice camp tractor.
It's a great utility tractor.
It's a beast for that size tractor. It really is.
Oh yeah.
And it'll have a tiller, so a guy could till up a small food plot with this thing.
It looks like a 50 or 60 horse.
So when is this happening? Because I got a few things I need to get done before we get rid of this.
So it's a long giveaway.
Hold on just a second.
It's not we're not gonna give it away till we're finished using it.
Oh, all right, good. That's the best news I've heard.
So it is a used tractor.
Wait a minute, time out. Till you get through using it all summer.
Well, everybody's got. I think everybody has a chore.
We've got a few projects.
But so we've asked Jason McKellar, who is our marketing liaison, to come in here and explain
the man behind
how
the curtain.
guys can go and sign up for this. So this is breaking news, Jason. Can you explain to us what does a guy do to have a chance to win this?
Sure. Very easy. Just go to mossyoakgamekeeper.com. There's a link in the menu bar. There's going to be banners, very visible. Just click on them, take you to a little form, fill it out. Once you fill it out, you're entered, but then it'll open up more ways to enter. So I think there's 5-6 more ways to enter.
So a guy could enter 4 different ways and have 4 chances to win.
That's right. Very easy. Follow the podcast, sign up for the newsletter.
Can I get one of my friends to
we win?
sign up for me?
Put my name in too.
We can't win.
Nope.
We never can win.
Nope.
I knew that was coming.
This is for our guests. It's like eating the food before the guests get at your house.
So we have
to let you sample it a little bit.
No, yeah, a little bit.
So it is used, but what LS has promised me they're going to do is if there's anything that's broken or anything that needs repairing,
torn up,
they will repair it. And they're going to put a warranty on it, and then so whoever wins this will win a tractor that was used by us.
Hey, and it's got a belly mower on it. You forgot
it
to
does
talk
have
about
a belly. Yes,
it's
not on it at the moment.
Yeah.
But it will.
You haven't lost the belly mower.
Which one it
you?
is? Yeah, that is a true utility tractor.
You can do anything with this tractor.
You're right. You can do anything.
Yeah.
It's a great just for chores around the camp.
No doubt about it. So, it's a great one.
Okay, guys. So Jason, thank you. Tell them once again what website to go to.
mossyoakgamekeepers.com. You can also, it'll be in the show notes. So if you're on our YouTube or watching it anywhere, Apple, Spotify, you can just click on the show notes and you can get there.
Sweet. You ever been to that website?
I hear about these show notes, but I never.
Have you ever been to the Mossy Gamekeeper website?
I've been there so many times it gets tired of seeing me click on it. So, okay, Jason, thank you. That's just great. We're excited about this.
It's exciting for everybody, yes.
Yep. All right,
and thanks to LS. They're just great partners.
Yeah, they are.
And they make they
make a great tractor too.
Really
I look forward to anybody who hadn't. If you're shopping for one out there,
check them out.
Couldn't be any better.
Check them out. That's right.
They got dealers everywhere, so including the camo tractor. Now that was at Nashville at the on display.
Talk about better in Bottomland.
A lot of people taking pictures next to it.
No doubt.
All right, Doc, we're going to come back to you. Thank you so much for being here. The first thing I'm going to let Mac ask the first question, but I was hoping that you would tell us the story of your first turkey, and we just kind of kick it off there.
Oh, sure. That's a favorite. I'll never forget that one. It's pretty well burned into my brain matter for all time. I had heard a couple turkeys fly up to roost the first night I ever hunted them. And the next morning, I had a Jake and a hen. He didn't gobble, but he walked up to me at about 10 yards, and I missed him, just flat out missed him. And to that point, I still had never heard a turkey gobble at all. But just seeing those turkeys, and that's the first turkey I'd seen ever, and just seeing them and that close, it just put a fire under my skin. I had to learn about this turkey hunting thing. I struggled for a couple more days after that, didn't get anything done. But I just was bound and determined that I was going to figure this thing out. So I put everything I own, my backpack, my tent, and sleeping bag, and all my hunting gear on a backpack, and I took off into the Hoosier National Forest. I walked about 3 to 4 miles back into nowhere. A place that I'd studied on topographic maps. It just looked like it ought to have turkeys. I didn't know what that looked like at that time, but it seemed good to me. It was isolated. It was a beautiful long valley with a perennial stream going through it. It had lots of all timber. It just looked good on a map. So I got in there in the evening and camped on a deer trail and painted up my face before I went to sleep so I wouldn't waste any time in the morning with my camo, and I slept in my camo, and at daylight I was rewarded with a turkey gobbling, and it was just that first gobble I ever heard was just it just seared into my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what to do other than what I'd been told. And so I knew I needed to get around him. He was quite a ways away. I needed to get up above him. That's what you always heard. So I started walking that way. And luckily for me, he was one of those turkeys that gobbled at anything or nothing. And it's a good thing he did, because I'd hear a gobble, and then I'd take about 3 steps and I'd just wait for another gobble. I didn't know what else to do. And he'd gobble again, and I kept going. About halfway to him, I look up and the sky is just turning black. We're gonna get a storm, and it's on its way. And I can see lightning in the background, but it didn't matter. I'm 4 miles back in. There's nothing I can do about that. So he kept gobbling. He was gobbling at nothing. He was gobbling at thunder. I hadn't called, of course, at this point, but I finally, after way too much time, got up around him. He was in the edge of a pine thicket. I was in the edge of the pines. I was pretty close to him, and I just sat down on him. I was probably less than 100 yards from him, and he's gobbling like crazy. And he's been gobbling for 20, 25 minutes while I've gotten in place. And about that time, here comes the rain, and it was a sheet of rain. You couldn't see 30 feet. It was raining so hard, and he's still gobbling. And I finally got enough cotton out of my mouth to be able to call on my mouth call. All I could do was cluck. I didn't know what I was doing then, but I clucked and he gobbled, or it seemed like he gobbled after. Maybe he was gobbling at the thunder. Maybe he was gobbling at nothing, but he gobbled. That encouraged me, and I clucked again, and he gobbled. And in a matter of just a few minutes, here he came walking out of that sheet of rain, and I'll never, to my dying day, forget the image of that dinosaur walking in out of that rain. And he got to about, 20 yards, and he stopped, and he craned his neck up, and he just shook like a dog, and he shook all that water off of him. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything so glorious in my life. I had a strong suspicion that my 12 gauge shotgun wasn't enough weaponry to bring that big boy down, but he stood there and I shot, and man, when he went down, it was like just a feeling of euphoria like I've never known. And I jumped up and hollered and made a fool out of myself to nobody, because there wasn't anybody around. It was just, that was all it took. My life's fate was sealed.
What year do you think that was?
It was 1983, 41 springs ago.
Wow.
That's the year I killed my first turkey.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
I was 23 years old, and I'd spent my whole life in the woods and hollers around home, and I'd never seen a turkey. I'd never seen anything like that in my life, and it's all I needed to know from that point on. Needless to say, it's controlled my life.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So the where you were hunting, was that in Indiana?
Yeah, southern Indiana, Hoosier National Forest.
Hoosier. I kind of felt like that had something to do with Indiana, but
So great.
Yeah, my dad
great
was the manager of Lake Monroe, and Lake Monroe's a 10,000 acre reservoir, and then around the edges of the lake is a bunch of Hoosier National Forest. And man, I just picked the most isolated spot I could find on a map and took off for it. And I talked to a guy just last week that he said he hunted down there this spring and was still hearing turkeys in that same hollow where I killed that one.
Huh,
I killed my
cool.
first 2 birds in that same spot. Killed one the next year.
Wow.
yeah.
I don't think I've been back since.
So the limit in Indiana is still 1. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Just one. Our biologist, we've got a really good turkey biologist, and always have ever since I started. And I think he might have just retired last year. He's always been a really good biologist, but very conservative, and he's always looked out for our resource very well. He's done a great job.
That's good for him. It's a great state.
Yeah. Mac, you got a question for him?
I do. All right, Doc. So I wanted to read something for everybody that resonated extremely well with me, and just wanted to get your opinion and go deeper into this. So this is something that you wrote. Turkey hunting isn't the equal of deer hunting or duck hunting or hunting of anything else in the world. It's far superior pastime to them all, and it should be conducted in an honorable manner with the utmost dignity. And I take that, I mean, that's exactly how I feel about turkey hunting. But was that something that somebody else instilled in you? Is that something you learned over time, or how did you get to that point?
I think it's a combination of both. So the man that I sort of learned the sport from, he was a wildlife biologist, compatriot of my dad, and he was much older than me, and he's the only person I ever knew that turkey hunted. And I used to sit and listen to his stories, and he had such a reverie for the wild turkey, a respect, and you could tell every word he said he felt, and I guess from that time on, and that was several years before I hunted, when I first started listening to Bill talk about turkeys. From that point on, I just held turkeys and wild turkeys and the sport of turkey hunting above everything else. Back then there weren't very many turkeys. I think there were 93 killed the first year in Indiana when I started hunting them. There weren't very many turkeys around. There weren't very many turkey hunters, and they were held. I think they were just held in a special level, up above all those. I do all those other sports. I love every one of them. I love my duck hunting. Squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, deer hunting. I do it all. But there's just something special about a turkey. And the more that I became involved with turkeys, the more I messed with them, and the more I learned about them and studied them, I just think they're worthy of all that respect. And I think that's the way you should carry on the hunt, with dignity and honor. And that's the way I try to conduct my hunts and conduct my life around the turkey. And I think so many other people do too. I think it's a universally shared among our sport, respect for the game. And you can see it. You can see it down there in Nashville, all the respect that people have for the turkey, and all the concern for the problems that are going on right now. We've seen some population declines and stuff. You see people working their tail end off to try and get that turned around, and it's encouraging to see, and I've enjoyed being part of it.
The Furminator is the industry's most versatile piece of food plot equipment, allowing plotters to do every step of the process, working the soil, adding seed and soil supplements, and compacting, from start to finish with a single implement. It's hassle-free by design. Set it for the seed size and simply drive the tractor, and the Furminator does the rest. Check it out at thefurminator.com.
This is Lanny at the Gamekeepers of Mossy Oak. I've been shooting Nosler bullets as long as I've been wearing Mossy Oak. Nosler ballistic tip ammunition is made for knocking deer down right where they stand. Nosler's famous ballistic tip bullet is the key. It has controlled expansion and bone-crushing punch to turn a whitetail's lights out. Bring home more deer this year with ballistic tip ammunition from Nosler. Buy now at nosler.com.
Yeah, spending time at NWTF this past week, like you said, it was very noticeable that the respect and the ethics and our concern, it was just exponentially higher this year. You could almost just feel it in the air. So
it was.
I agree with you.
It was palpable.
For sure.
There's been so much learned in the last, 5 or 10 years as people, we all did. We took it for granted. I mean, everything we touched turned to gold as they released, cannon netted turkeys all across the country, and just like a little bomb and cluster that grew, and, they didn't have any barriers, and all of a sudden we have all these headwinds now. It's just good to see how much people really, really care. And I think they all also realize it's a little bit different than, say, ducks, where we can still kind of gaze towards Canada and say, help us out, with the hatch this year. We got to take matters in our own hands. And honestly, Doc, you see more than even I do, but it just seems like people are enjoying that and taking matters in their own hands to turn things around, because you got to do it place by place. You can't do it in big broad stroke,
That's right. There's so many things in our life that we can't control, but working hard for something, for a common goal like that, people want to get behind that and stand behind it and pitch in and help and do the parts, do the hard work that's necessary. And I love to see it. It's been a lot of fun.
I just got to say that reminded me so much, and almost kind of brought me to tears, that what my dad said that time they captured, and we use it forever. He just said it one time. Boom. In Mossy Oak, we look after things that we love. And we love turkeys. I mean, do we love turkeys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're busy looking out for them.
Lanny, have you got a question for Doc? You always complain that you never get to ask enough questions.
Well, thank you for including me so early in the podcast this week, Bobby. But yeah, I mean, my question is more about, I guess, when you're setting up on a turkey, I guess your path to success, is it more based on calling or woodsmanship?
Well, I think I've always studied the turkey. I study what they do, how they react with each other, how they use the land, and I use a lot of that. I'm looking for the very best place to set up. It might take me a little while to get to a spot where I think I can call that turkey in, because I'm wanting to make sure there's no barriers in the way. I want to find a spot where they're comfortable and coming. It's a lot easier to call one in to where he wants to go than where you want to set up, right? So using all that, I think calling is important, but I think it's what you say and when you say it, and less can a lot of times be more. Say the right thing at the right time, and you don't have to overcall or anything. I'm not a great caller. I think I'm competent, but I certainly don't. I sure didn't belong down there on the stage in Nashville after listening to all those guys.
That makes me feel better.
Oh my gosh, those guys blow my mind. Man, Matt Van Sice, he's got to have turkey feathers growing in his armpit. That dude is amazing.
Right, Roker and different. He's the GOAT at this point.
Yeah,
it may change someday, but nobody's touched his accomplishments. It's incredible. They're musicians. They're not just callers.
No.
Perfection, and it's all up and down the stage. You saw it. You can speak to it better than me.
Yeah, they're amazing. Dave Owens is a great friend of mine, but I've never heard anybody call better than him in my own personal experiences. But my gosh, Van Sice has been beating him for years.
8 years in a row, something like that, 7, something like that.
Yeah, he's won 9 of them now. Yeah. That blows my mind. But yeah, so that's all important, studying. I've never had some of the old timers had such an over respect. I think I hate to use that term, but they almost a fear of screwing up, because they thought that turkey could see through trees or would disappear into the ground. And we've all seen them do those very same things. I know they can, but I've always approached them. They're a bird, and they have their weak spots and vulnerabilities, and I try to capitalize on any of those that I can. Mm-hmm. I think it's mostly just most of my respect, my success stems from knowing the bird extremely well.
Yeah, because Doc's hunting a lot of new ground.
Yeah,
when especially on these 49 states he's traveled to. So I bet there's been a lot of times where there's some barrier that has held up a bird.
I don't think
it
bears repeating too. I don't think we said it yet, but he's on the very cusp of completing 5. I mean, it's an incredible, very, very small club that can do it once. He's on. You like 2 states, right, Doc? From completing your 5th.
Yeah, I got 2 states. That's just a sign of not having sense to stay home and do something else that I should be doing. So I'm not there yet.
Hey, look, it's incredible. It's just incredible.
So that's 5 times he will have killed
every single state
in all 49 states.
Yeah, and just think about some of those. Some of those tiny little states. We talked to him about it before. Some of them, it's really hard to even get permission to go.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. Getting a tag in Nevada is about as hard as it can get, especially if you're trying to kill a public land bird. I did this at the time when there wasn't a whole lot of demand. Other people weren't doing it. So I was able to draw 4 public land tags throughout the years. So I got 4 birds on public land from Nevada. And then last year I killed one on private. That's a tough one. Rhode Island can be really tough on public land. Their public land is multi-use, and I mean, there are people all over that place, horseback riding, bicycling, hiking, bird watching, and those guys, they're not meaning to, but they'll screw up a turkey hunt as fast as anything. and there's not a whole lot of turkeys on their public land. Some of their private land can be pretty good, but those are two tough ones. Delaware, again, it's another small state with not a whole ton of birds in it. If you get drawn for a public land bird, it can be pretty good. Some of those states like that, the access of getting the permit can be your most challenging thing. As far as the turkeys go, I think a turkey's a turkey. Any turkey, especially a pressured turkey, can be tough in any state. I don't care where you're at. But I think I don't know. I think you make your own luck, and a lot of times you work hard for it, and you can sometimes be rewarded with an easy bird in a hard state. I've had easy hunts in Alabama, and I've had hunts down there where it would just make you pull your hair out. So you never know.
I've had a lot of those in my life. Dudley, you
Is
got
that
a
what
question?
happened?
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions for him. I'm trying to pick an appropriate one for this podcast. I really want to know more about you personally, like, where'd you get your favorite, where's the best cheeseburger you've ever gotten on the road and all that stuff.
Oh,
but
man, that's an easy one. It was last year.
Where is that?
I was out in Arizona, and I got my butt handed to me on a platter last year. I hunted 9 days, and I got every decision I made for 9 days was totally wrong. I screwed up everything and got skunked. So I was leaving there, and I was driving through New Mexico, and there's a little town called Hatch. And I don't know if you're familiar with Hatch green chilies.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was pretty close to Hatch, and I like green chilies, and I like green chili cheeseburgers when I'm out west. So I stopped at a little place called Sparky's in Hatch, and my gosh, what a cheeseburger that was. Cheeseburger and a strawberry shake and some spicy pinto beans. And man, it was a heck of a lunch.
Everybody write that down.
It didn't make up for getting my butt kicked in Arizona, but at least I got a good meal out of it.
There you go.
I bet it changed your luck. Something that, started shaking.
Yeah.
So I picture you, you're this traveling turkey hunter. I have this strange suspicion that you probably read Jack Kerouac's On the Road a long time ago. And
a long time ago.
You're out on turkey tour, but I do have a turkey question, and we've been talking about this amongst ourselves a lot lately. Are you one of those folks that like to sporadically call while you're walking through the woods to sound like a turkey? Or do you normally wait until you get to a promising area to yelp or something and try and get a gobble?
Yeah, I'm not what you'd call your typical run and gun hunter, I don't think. It depends. If I get to say I go into a new state and I've looked at my maps, I've done my pre-season scouting or whatever, as much as I can do on the internet or maps or what have you. I go into an area, and if I start finding sign or hearing the turkey gobble, I slow way down. If I'm just trying to find a bird, I'll move through looking for sign, looking for tracks, scratchings, droppings, trying to find feathers, trying to find sign that there's turkeys there. A lot of times when I'm going into a new spot, it may be later in the season. I don't know if I'm hunting gobblers or ghosts. There might be other people that have already been in there and killed all the times, So I'm trying to discern that with what I can find, what visible sign I can find. If I get into a hot area, I slow way down. I'm perfectly content, especially the older I get and the more miles I put on my knees, my old bad carpenter's knees. I'm pretty content to sit for a long time. If I'm just moving and prospecting and looking for turkeys and I stop, I don't ever stay for less than a half an hour, and usually at least an hour. And I'll call, I don't know, every 5 to 15 minutes, I guess. And I don't overcall. I don't just sit there and yep. I'll try to conduct what I would say would be a one-way conversation, trying to start something up with somebody, get a hen to answer or a tom, I don't care. As long as I can make a contact with a turkey. And like I say, then I'm content to read my sign and stay in the fresh sign. If I find fresh scratching, a whole bunch of it, man, I'm going to be sitting right there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of tracks, man, I'm right there. So Yeah, and then like I say, if you're just prospecting, I'll go maybe every quarter mile or 300 yards or something, and yelp hard down a hollow or something, try to get something to gobble.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's got a style, and I think that it's interesting to hear different styles. I wanted to ask you if you're walking in, there's a turkey roosted somewhere, and you kind of get in there and get set up, or are you letting him kind of do his thing on the roost before? And are you wanting him to get on the ground before you yelp at him much, or do you call to him in a tree?
Yeah, very much. I used to owl hoot a lot and try to make him gobble, try to force the issue early. I've kind of started shying away from that a little bit. I kind of just like the woods to do their own thing, let the turkeys do their own thing. Now, if he's not going to gobble, that changes everything. But say I know there's a gobbler in there, I don't care if he gobbles. If I know he's there, I don't care. I just soon he didn't gobble because I'm on public land most of the time, and if he starts gobbling, all that means is somebody else is going to hear him too, and they're going to come in there. That's why I don't normally call to him in the tree. I want him on the ground. Let's get that battle started, as soon as possible. I don't want him up there in the tree advertising for everybody.
Do you have a lot of hunting public land as much as you do? Do you have run-ins with other hunters, and do you find that once they realize you're there, they maybe back off, or does it get aggravating and they try to sit around and cut you off, or how do you?
That's as much as I'm on public land, and that's most of the time, probably 85% of the time. I don't have as much hunter interference as I would expect. It does happen, and a lot of times in the parking lot, you'll pull in someplace, somebody will pull in right there beside you, right at gobbling time or something like that. In the woods itself, not all that often. Once in a while, you'll run into somebody that'll not care, and they'll come in and try to cut you off or whatever. But it doesn't happen enough that you walk around mad all the time. And I do get a lot of people that have the respect for another hunter, and they'll hear you working the bird and they'll ease off. And I treat everybody the same way. If I hear somebody working turkey, I might sit down and listen to the battle, but I'm certainly not going to contribute anything until I know he's gone or they've killed the bird or whatever. More than likely, I'll just turn and walk away and go find another turkey. We have that opportunity down in the United States where you don't have. It's not the only turkey in the county. You can go find someplace else to hunt. So that's the way I treat everybody else, and I hope that's the way most people treat me and everyone else.
Lanny, have you is that the attitude you have if somebody moved in there what are you going to do?
Well, I'm hunting with my child a lot now, so my attitude has definitely changed over the years. Safety.
No more slash tires. No more spark plugs pulled out of outboard motors.
Well, even if I'm just what happens to me more often than not is I'm on a turkey and somebody's walking in calling on it, and if they booger the turkey up, I just bail out. I'm not going to his point going to fight over a turkey anymore.
Has there been a time in your life when you would have put your hands on somebody?
No. I mean, you got to remember everybody's got a gun out there and it's a super safety issue. So I'll back off. That's what you do.
Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
So a lot of times, if somebody else is going to booger up a turkey, they're going to leave, right?
That's right.
So that turkey hadn't gone anywhere, and he's still there. The more I hunt turkeys, the more I realize that even if you shoot and miss one, you can kill him an hour later or 10 minutes later or 3 hours later. He's still there. So that really doesn't deter me much. In fact, if somebody boogers up a turkey and I know they leave, well, that's just better. I'm there. I'll stay with him. I got nothing better to do.
That's patience.
Take a nap and wait.
I will say the competition, or the fact that you think you're not only, you have to out hunt all the hunters and, shoot the turkey too. It will push you to hunt harder, get up earlier, commit, but not to the point of, fist fighting in the power line over a turkey.
Yeah. As long as you're not parking at that popular gate that people, park 3 and 4 deep on, it's pretty easy to get away from all of that.
I will say turkey hunters are much more kind and respectful than sometimes you run into the waterfowl community. Not
Duck
going
hunter?
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that gets a little out of hand.
So I'm kind of, Doc, I'm asking you, but I'm looking at Lanny. I'd like his point of view and Dudley as well. But if you're sitting there on public land, you've got a guy, you're working a turkey and you hear another guy coming, do you try to wave at him? Do you let him know, hey, I'm over here? Do you feel like there's safety is any kind of something that makes you make sure that guy knows you're there? You yelp at him, or
If I see the guy, I want him to know I'm there
Yeah.
because I don't want to get shot. But you want to be careful about that too. You don't want to wave at him and make him see movement and take a shot at it. But the same thing as I'm studying turkeys. I'm also studying everything that's going on around that woods. I'm looking at all the other critters, and and if I see, same thing with another hunter. I'm watching that hunter. I'm trying to stay aware of him, and I definitely want him to know. I'm not going to just yell at him and let him know I'm there, but I'm going to try and get his attention, let him know.
I used to do the old squeak.
And if he doesn't acknowledge me, or if he looks at me and just goes on, well, if that's the kind of hunter I'm going to be around, I'll just walk away from him.
See these people? When the clock strikes 5, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. They have to do these things. They have to do those things. Enter the all-new LS Tractor MT2 and MT2E, a relentless force of innovation. Redesigned with a new hood and cab built for comfort and visibility, with enhanced lifting capacity to get the job done. Making these people the ones everyone else calls those people. Visit your local LS Tractor dealer today.
Moultrie was first in feeders since 1979 and is the leader in total game management. They're taking feeding to another level with the new Ranch Series line of durable and versatile feeders, perfect for both wildlife and domestic livestock. So Dudley, you can feed your goats. Whether you're a deer hunter, a hobby farmer, a land manager, or a rancher, Moultrie has you covered with several kit options, including a rotating auger, broadcast, or a gravity kit. And these feeders are 300 or 450 pounds. They're big feeders. All right, so guys, Moultrie is offering our listeners a 15% site-wide discount at MoultrieFeeders.com. Use code Mossy Oak with a capital M, Mossy Oak, at MoultrieFeeders.com and get that 15% discount.
You're scared to move. You certainly kind of don't need to call or whatever. Maybe blow. Once or twice I've had something where once they saw and once I knew they were right on top of me, and I actually got out a crow call and messed it up really bad so they knew for sure it was a person, because I felt like that was safe. At least they wouldn't draw down on me or whatever. One time it made a guy who was coming in, it made them disappear. They just vaporized because they knew, and they weren't. I was where I was supposed to be. They weren't.
Yeah. Well,
other time they looked over and saw me then when I was on public land. So I don't know. That might be what do you think is the best thing for people to do safety wise?
I tell you what I do. I learned it from you.
What's that? Yeah. Whistle at them.
Oh,
I just do a kind of an unnatural whistle.
Yeah, something that gets their attention.
But sometimes I've been known just to whistle Dixie at them, and occasionally somebody will whistle it back at me, or try to crow call really badly or owl hoot really badly so they know it's a human.
Give them the hook for you all.
You know, we're laughing about some of this, but of all the topics we cover, and I'm sure we could let him talk for hours and hours, and people could learn so much from his experience. But it's probably the most important topic. I mean, if
safety 100%,
if we help one person
not
out of
shot.
a tight spot safely, then that might be the most important thing we give them out there, Doc. And you have so much experience with that, also.
Doc, have you ever had a situation where you felt your safety was compromised?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's when you sneak out of there. Yeah. I don't think I've ever had anybody level their gun at me. I don't think that I knew about, but yeah, that thought's always in the back of my mind. I know a couple of my friends have been shot. I shared the stage with a guy at the turkey convention. He'd been shot, 20 or 30 years ago, and he's still blind in one eye. So yeah, it's an awareness. You got to be careful. You gotta watch what you're doing and watch the other guy.
Yeah, Mac, you've got a question.
Yeah, Doc. So, I mean, finding the turkeys is number one thing is being where the turkey is. I mean, what are some tactics that you might be willing to share about how you find these turkeys? I mean, by a phone or a laptop.
Well, in the old days, back when I, started doing this traveling turkey hunting thing, it was writing to biologists and making direct contact with the turkey biologists and seeing what they suggested, areas they suggested, in combination with studying any literature I could find. You can get, lists of hunter densities per county or kills per county, and then I'm looking at public land options. So, I'm looking at anything that they publish, and then in conjunction with that, then I'm talking to those biologists, getting it narrowed down. So before I ever get to a state, I've got a pretty good idea. And this is built up over years to the point where now it's a lot easier now for me because I've got a database. But when I'm just going out cold, it's looking at the ground features, looking at the like I say, the success rate in that area, and just whatever I can find, talking to people at the grocery store or the post office, or just anybody when you're in the area. Stopping at a restaurant and talking to people. Wear your camo. I always wear my camo, and I've found a lot of turkeys.
Yeah.
Somebody will strike up a conversation in a restaurant. You turkey hunt? Yeah. Got any luck? No, not really. Well, I've saw turkeys over here on this and that road, and well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, wow.
So,
Yeah.
whatever you can do, you got to work hard at it sometimes.
I've never thought about the wearing the camo thing.
That's because we always got camo on.
Conversation.
So how often do you see a turkey strutting in the field and look at your Onyx? Now you can see who the landowner is probably, or if there's a house there, stop and ask permission to go hunt. How often does that
How often do I ask permission?
Yeah.
Hardly, never, ever.
Wow.
I'm old school. All these young guys younger than me, that Onyx is the way they do it. And man, it's not the way I grew up. I struggle with. I use Onyx, religiously, but I don't ever call people looking for permission to hunt.
Lanny, you would just go. Wouldn't you ask permission later?
No,
Bobby,
why are you framing me up as the outlaw?
Mark that time code, Richie.
Yeah. I do have a question related to this, though, Doc. How much afternoon hunting do you do? Do you, stay out till sunset and roost birds for the next morning?
Yeah, I do quite a bit. A lot of times I'll knock off if I'm hungry. I'll go eat or something, 1 or 2 o'clock. But I get back in the woods pretty soon thereafter. If I'm going to, spend my time going to another state, buying an expensive hunting license and such, and my time, you only get 3 months. So I want to be in the woods as much as possible.
Yeah, I'd venture to say you like being in the woods, and
I do.
You get
There's no place I'd rather be.
Yeah,
you get that sense of
100%.
fulfillment. So it's way better than sitting at the tailgate eating some
What am I
viands.
what am I going to do back at camp? Take a nap. I can take a nap in the woods. A lot better.
Yeah.
I sleep really good out there. So I've been known, if you talk to anybody that's hunted with me, a lot of them have pictures of me falling asleep. Well,
I bet those woods naps are the best.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite
they
tactics.
are. I
Wake
sleep
up
better in the woods than any place.
Yeah. So, and he's hunting some pretty places.
Oh,
so
yeah.
being out there in them is
In all 50 states, or 49.
Yeah.
I get it that you're kind of the guy that's not really mad at them, but you just enjoy the whole process so much and being out there and doing it that the luck seems to find you. I mean, you obviously have experience, but
and he's out there.
You just enjoy being out there so much that whether you get one or not.
I tell you, way that sun's shining out there today.
The only thing that I regret, I guess, a little bit, not much, is I haven't done nearly enough fishing. I mean, I've driven by a lot of beautiful trout streams and fishing water, and not wet a line over the years. And I wish there were more hours in a day so I could do everything. But
you got to pick your.
They make those little packable fly rods. You can stick one in your turkey vest, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we asked our listeners if there were any questions they wanted to ask you, and one kind of really stuck out here in my mind. I thought this might be a good place to ask it. Is when you close your eyes and think about turkey hunting, where are you sitting? Is there a state? Is there an area?
A habitat type, anything.
That's a cool question. I like that one. I'm a hardwood boy, man. I love the deciduous forest. I grew up in the Southern Hills, Indiana, rolling hills, hardwoods, oaks, hickories. Man, there ain't nothing in my mind prettier than a chestnut-tipped eastern ripping it on a hardwood ridge. It does not get any better. Second to that would be Florida, because I love my time in Florida. I spend about a month there guiding every year, and there's something about those big old live oaks and Spanish moss and those swamp gobblers, and I love that down there. But my heart lies in the hardwoods, Midwestern hardwoods.
Boy, it just seems like the gobble's louder in the hardwoods, isn't it? It just
There's nothing better to me. It really is.
Yeah, they shake your chest.
I just love those ridges, and you stumble across an old tree with character, and that's hard to beat.
We've been asking everybody that we've had the last few weeks about drumming, and are you a guy that can hear that, and can you hear it at a distance? Can you course it? Does it figure into your game plan?
Yeah, I was blessed with really good hearing, and I can hear drumming for a long ways. I think maybe it might have diminished a little bit over the years in one ear. Now I noticed that I think it's left, but it's really right, but other than that, I can hear them a long ways. There was a time, I was in New York one time, and it was an hour before daylight, and I heard this turkey drumming, and it was just mist and rain, really, really light. And I don't know if that contributed to the acoustic, whether that was like a radio receptor of the drumming or whatever, but I started walking towards this turkey, and I finally got to the point where I was right up underneath him, still pitch dark. And I didn't kill him. He flew down and went the other way. I didn't kill him. Well, I came back later and I paced that off from where I first heard him to where he was roosted. It was about 300 yards.
Wow.
And I thought, my gosh, how could I possibly have heard a turkey drumming that far? But I did. I hear him regularly, 100, 150. Yeah. And I use it a lot. I drum at them some. I spit and drum. And I was listening to your podcast with Dave the other day, and he was saying that he doesn't really use that much. I do. And I think I've definitely had some turkeys that I killed because of it. I was guiding a guy in Florida a couple of years ago, and I had two gobblers come out, and they hung up about 60 yards out, and they drew a line in the sand. They weren't coming any closer. That was it. And I started spitting and drumming with my mouth, and boy, you could just see them. They'd perk up and listen, and then they'd take one or two steps closer and strut and pace back and forth, and I'd drum again, and that same thing. They finally got to about 32 yards, and then he killed one of them. And I definitely directly attribute that kill to spitting and drumming. I love it. That's an awesome sound to hear. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for all the people that can't hear it, because that one just gets my heart.
It's magic. And like you said, Left, I've never really been able to course it really well. I mean, usually it's there the direction I thought, but not always. And even then I can't be sure. It's just so mysterious. It's overwhelming sometimes. But
so
I'm just going to say one thing I've noticed, and I don't know if it's true or not because I have a lot of data points, but so many times it's happened to me, and I have heard them at 300 yards before, or 250. I mean, just crazy loud. It's like, wow, turkey's drumming so loud. He's 200 and something yards. Every time that I ever got lucky enough, or someone with me killed one of those, it was always a very old turkey. And I'm just wondering, I asked Dave that, and he said, yeah, but he hadn't noticed that. Have you noticed that whenever you've had a remarkably loud drumming turkey that if you killed him, it was an old turkey?
I heard you say that remarkably when you're talking to Dave, and I can't really say as I've paid any attention to it, old turkey or not. Yeah, it's interesting. I found it really interesting to hear you say that. I'm going to start paying more attention to that, maybe.
Because it's just every now and then, and maybe it's the conditions too, but every now and then you can hear, there's no way I can hear that turkey drumming. But what I still remember vaguely, because it was a really slow year, and I hunt a lot in Alabama, and I hadn't even killed a turkey on this property, my favorite place. All year, it was like 2 days before the season was over. And I just heard a jake gobbling, and that's a jake. So, and I'll sit here because nothing's gobbling just a little bit to see what happens. And then I could hear a turkey drumming, and it was a very long way off because I could see 200 yards. And, anyway, it told me, obviously, that drumming that far away, that it should be an old turkey, even with a really pitiful gobble. Turns out it was a old turkey. He just had a weak gobble late in the season like that. So it just a couple of times that's happened. It just, you remember when you stand over one, he's got those needle sharp spurs. It makes you think about it some.
Yeah, it sounds like a good theory. I wouldn't doubt it at all. I know turkeys can certainly vary their gobbling. I mean, I've seen turkeys standing at 60 yards from me and gobble. You couldn't hardly hear him. And I've watched turkeys at 150 yards that you couldn't hear at all.
Yeah.
Now maybe that's terrain. Like a lot of times in Florida, if he's out there at 100, 150 yards standing in a pasture, you can watch him gobble all day long. You won't hear a dang thing. But I think they probably can vary their drumming too. I would think so.
So can you give us an example of how you spit and drum at them? Can you do that over the phone?
I just
sounds like one to me.
That's it, Lanny.
I know. I wish I could hear it.
Y'all ever hear wings dragging in the? That's just,
a little bit.
Oh yeah,
they got to be really close for it, or it's got to be really crunchy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hearing them walk and spit.
Called one up in Nevada one time, and he was dragging his wings in the sand. And if you can hear him dragging wings in the sand, he's pretty close.
He's close. Yep. You better have your safety off. Yep.
Yeah.
Mac, we need to practice our spitting and drum.
Do you the thing people do a lot. Sometimes it scares me to do it because I'm so intent on, obviously got in the camo business, never being seen or spooking one or anything. But, occasionally I do it. But a lot of people I go with, cuz is real big on it, raking in the leaves. Do you do that a lot, raking in the leaves a lot, or you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, almost every setup. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, because they have a definite cadence. It's scratch with one foot, scratch twice with the second foot,
right.
scratch, maybe scratch a fourth time with the so scratch. And you can walk. I walk through the woods, and especially in the afternoons. If I'm hunting in the afternoon, I'm not on a hot spot particularly, but I'm trying to find turkeys. Just moving slow, listening for scratching, because those hens are going to be scratching in the afternoon for sure.
Yep, he's right about that cadence.
Oh yeah,
I found a ton of turkeys.
Scratch.
That's right.
Scratch.
And it's so humorous to watch them because their legs are so far back from where their head is. When they scratch after that second one, like scratch, and they're backing up on the second scratch so that their head's right where they just scratched. It's really funny to watch them backing up like that.
That's one of the first things I look for when I sit down is to be sure I got something to
Scratch with. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not as brave. I do it. I've done it some, and I've had them. Just crack a stick and they gobbled at it and came in there. But I'm always I don't want them having me pinpoint it, especially if I'm not hit as well as I'd like to be. So I'm just so careful about that. And I'm so sparing with the calling or any sound if I don't feel like I'm hidden good enough,
The more I hunt, the more I like to get in hidden a little bit.
Yes.
I might pull some brush around me or, a fallen limb or something. I like to find a tree that's got some fallen stuff at its base, just so it's just not me and a tree trunk.
Right.
I just feel a little more comfortable and concealed, even if I'm not. Makes me feel a lot more confident when I got a little bit of something to break me up. And again, sitting in the shade, always sit in the shade.
Yeah, that's one of my little things I've never heard anybody talk about before. But if you're going to sit for a while, like especially say up in the morning, nothing's really happening, but you're going to stay there. And I've done it so many times. I get in the shade, and then like 20 minutes later, I'm in the bright sunlight again. Well, the sun's going from like east to west. So if you're looking there, where that shade's going. I sit at the very edge of it so that I'm sitting in the shade longer. And, and that's a small tip, but You sit there and you've been there an hour and you thought you were in the shade. Next thing you know, there he is, and you're sitting in the bright sunlight.
That's right.
But
no, it's attention to the little details that make you successful or not. A lot of times, you got to pay attention to that kind of stuff.
I tell you, it sounds like Doc's got a lot of woodsmanship skills.
Oh my
those
gosh.
old school that I wish we could pull some of those tips. You know, he's got a bunch of them in him.
So much experience.
I grew up as a squirrel hunter and a rabbit hunter without dogs, and you know, you learn to get around in the woods, and a trapper. I'll tell you what, I attribute a lot of my outdoorsmanship to being a trapper all my growing years. You know,
he takes his
learning what critters do.
The most important nutritional supplement for turkey hunters is your vitamin P. Patience.
Mm-hmm.
Big
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah. Yep. Agree.
So, Doc, I want to ask you, a guy, if you've traveled so much, and what contributed to you saying, okay, I think I want to try to kill a turkey in every state, and just initially it sounds like a monumental task, but how did you kind of make that jump in your mind to say, I think I can do this?
Well, I backed into that one. That was not a goal from early on at all. Early on, it was, I want a turkey hunt. Second thought was, I can't hunt. You know, our season back then was only 12 days. Well, 12 days wasn't enough. So I got to extend that somehow. So I started going to other states. And then it's like, well, 2 states isn't enough. I think I can hunt more than that. And so doing that, and then it's like, I want to hunt different environments. I want to see the West and Ponderosa Pines, and I want to see Florida and the swamps. I want to see the Northeast, and I want to see that Texas country, you know? So a curiosity about other habitats and where these turkeys are living. So that started out like that. And then the more I hunted, you know, I just started knocking states off, not with any kind of rhyme or reason. Then I got to a point where it's like, well, man, I've hunted a lot of eastern states. Maybe I'd like to kill turkey in all the eastern states, you know? And then one day, my friend Larry Sharp, biologist down in Kentucky, he said, well, why don't you just kill one in all states? I started looking at my records. Shoot, I've killed turkeys in 25 states already. I only got 24 more to go. I think I can do that. And then, but at the time, I thought, why do I want to ever hunt in Rhode Island or Delaware or one of these little more difficult places, you know, to get a tag? But then I started thinking about it. Well, shoot, Rob Keck had done it. And I was like, man, I think I can do that. So I started just knocking them off, but it was incremental. You know, like I said, I hunted all the easterns and got most of those out of the way. Then I started branching out, doing some western states and stuff. Pretty soon, well, before long, I was within reach. And then once I got one done, it's like, boy, I started looking at my records. Well, a lot of these states I've killed more than one turkey. Maybe I'll just try and kill a second one in every state.
Wow.
I'm not going to hunt any less in a year. I'm already hunting 10 to 12 states every year. It doesn't matter which states they are. So let's just see if I can arrange. And I always try to do my seasons where I'm arranging my season by the easiest travel route. You know, if I'm going to go out west, I'm going to hunt 3, 4, 5, 6 states out west, all in a way that makes sense in my driving plans to cover the least amount of ground. Same thing on the east. So it's like I'm knocking off chunks of states anyway, so I'm going to be there. Well, then I got done with 2. Oh, okay, I guess I'll try for 3.
I tell you, Lanny, it sounds like he'd be a lot of fun to break down with.
100%.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like an invite to me, Doc. I think Bobby's.
Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
He
always puts that out here. Yeah, there you go.
You better take your vitamin P.
Yeah. Now Bobby will show up.
It's about to start here. I'm going to head for Florida here in about 10 days. So
wow,
I'm starting to get geared up.
It's supposed to be 75 here today, so it's
60 something here in Indiana. It's crazy. It's insane.
We
haven't had a winter at all. So.
Hey guys, Dudley from Gamekeepers here. I want to tell you about the all-new Gunner Dog Bowl. It's designed for home and built for travel. It's customizable, leak-resistant, light on weight, solid on durability, and rust-proof. Like other Gunner products, they're made in Nashville and designed for everywhere.
Hey, this is Toxie Hayes with Mossy Oak. You know, hunting and fishing, game keeping, and taking care of the land with my family is my life. And I'll be honest with you, the one app that I'm on every day and use more than anything is OnX. It literally has changed my life. From property ownership to roads, everything to do with understanding the land better. I even use it to plot acreages all the time. Every function I could dream of. Use coupon code Mossy Oak to save 20% on your next OnX subscription. Trust me, you'll be so glad you did.
After all your traveling, all the people you've run into and met, and people ask you a lot of questions, is there one tip that you could give our audience that, guys, if y'all would pay more attention to this, or if you would do this and do that, that you guarantee that you can help a guy be a better turkey hunter? Is there anything comes to mind that you think guys just aren't doing enough of, that a good tip you can leave them with?
Man, I don't know. Maybe slow down. Maybe just, don't act like it's a race. Don't try and force the issue, but let the turkey work on turkey time. They're the ones that's going to make or break you anyway. It's at their pace, not yours. So slow down and watch what the bird's doing. Pay attention to how they're acting. I guess that'd probably be as good as any.
Yeah.
Like you say, vitamin P and a lot of vitamin P, and study the birds, study the turkey.
Yeah, Toxie's applauding that comment. You made something earlier about kind of letting the woods wake up and letting the morning kind of happen on its own rather than forcing some of the issues. I made a note about that because I think that was a really good comment as well. Especially turkeys.
I don't know if it's the right way to do it. I don't know about that. I mean, I enjoy it I've been a habitual record taker, so I've always recorded the time of first gobble every day I've ever hunted. When did they start? And if you're forcing the issue earlier than that, then it gives you kind of a false reading. So I just sort of I'm just curious at what time they're going to gobble on their own. So I've studied that, and I guess that's why I've slackened off on trying to make them gobble. I like to see how the morning develops, how it all comes together, how it starts. It's just the way I've started doing it. Now I'll still make him gobble once in a while, but most of the time I like to just let them do their thing.
So do you find that if I don't keep notes, but I do look at my little watch, and I try to make notes about when they're mental notes. If he gobbles at 6:01 today and I don't get him for some reason, I go back in the morning. I always just feel like at 6:01 he's going to gobble tomorrow.
It's going to be pretty close to that. All things equal, unless the weather changes or something. He's going to be within 5 minutes of that. I think almost always.
The time changes like 45, 50 seconds a day, doesn't it?
It gets a little earlier every day.
Yeah, it would be 6:02 tomorrow or 6 o'clock tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
He's going to be there an hour early.
They're pretty regular on when they want to gobble.
It's pretty amazing how they have that little something in their mind. Now it's time to gobble.
The one thing is like time, and I know it's all our perception, but something that's like God speeds that time up from the first gobble till it's too late. It's too late to get close enough. Mm-hmm. It goes so fast some days.
Yeah, it does.
you know.
Yep. It does.
I'm curious, Doc. I mean, as much data as that you keep, is there any anomalies or anything that just jumps out to you, whether it be the pressure or the sunny day or going to bed happy, waking up happy? Is there anything like that you see and you're like, they're going to be ripping it in the morning?
Well, I've not ever kept a barometer. That's the one thing I don't have. But I'll tell you one thing: if it's gonna rain mid-morning, and if it's not raining at daylight, but it's gonna rain mid-morning to noon, you can pretty well count they're not gonna gobble for crap first thing in the tree. I find that time and time again. If I don't hear any gobbling, I look at the weather and it's gonna rain later on. And okay. So I guess it's probably pressure related, I would think.
Don't you think it's different in different parts of the country too?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, but time and again, I find that to be pretty consistent. If if they're just not gobbling in the morning for whatever reason, a lot of the time it has to do with rain coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's different. If it's raining at daylight, whole different ball game. I love a little drizzling morning. Man, they'll gobble their brains out a lot of times. If it's raining good, I've had them gobble good. If it's going to rain late afternoon, same thing. They'll gobble good. But boy, that mid morning to noon time frame, that's like imminent weather coming in, and it must just trigger something in their brains, and they don't feel like gobbling.
That makes a lot of sense.
I had never really turkey hunted in the rain much.
I actually have sometimes, but
I had some great hunts in the rain.
Yeah,
I guess that first one I
there.
killed in the rain kind of got me started, and I'm not scared of hunting in the rain. If it's going to be just a downpour, I'll probably sit in the van for a while.
But, long duration.
But if it's a drizzling type rain or a real light rain, then I'm going to be out there. It can get good.
I'm bad to not go if it's looking bad outside. I'm not. But I do remember an older fellow that gave advice when I was younger, and we went one morning and had a hunt. Didn't kill a turkey. Had a bunch of hens and all. The turkeys gobbled, and we could hear a turkey or two, and it was raining. And he said, "Look, son," he said, "turkeys do almost everything just like they do when it's beautiful. Except you're not out there to hear them, or you can't hear them if you are because the rain, knocks down the sound."
That's right.
He acted like, that's, you might not can hear them, but they work the same, come to a call the same, and do everything. It's what he said. I can't bear great witness to that because I had the times I do go, I know where they are for sure. I roosted one, Today's World. I saw them on camera the day before or something like that, And I will go in the rain.
Yeah, I'm always worried about my calls.
I've done it. Just leave everything but a mouth call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're not killed one in a storm not long ago, a few years ago.
Yeah, we have.
Mm-hmm.
But even here, the turkeys at home in Mississippi will gobble in bad weather.
Yeah,
gobble at thunder and stuff. But across, and I don't know what it is, but over there where our place is in Alabama, and growing up hunting in further south Alabama, and I remember Bob Dixon saying that. He was from Alabama. He said, "Look," and we'd be mully grubbing about the turkey. He said, "Our turkeys just don't gobble when they're wet. They just don't." And so I've noticed, at least in that part of the country, what the weather's like when they go to bed has a big factor of how they're going to, ring it the next morning. And not so much here. I mean, when they get cranked up and they're wanting to breed hens and all, they usually gobble anyway. But I don't know, it's weird. Something about those old school Alabama turkeys are so weather sensitive.
A lot of times when you've gone through a couple of days of really heavy rain, and it's going to be really nice the next day, and you think, oh, they're all just going to crank it today. They've got to. They've been wet for 2 days. Now it's beautiful. And you won't hear any, and it's like I almost need another day of decent weather before they start firing up again.
So Doc, being a woodsman in both forms of the word, what's your favorite slate glass call wood?
What's my favorite glass call wood?
Or do you have a favorite wood, or do you have a favorite wood that the call's made out of?
Like oak, walnut, whatever.
Yeah, cherry.
Well, not particularly, because I've got a ton of glass calls that all sound good. The one call I've stuck with a lot of years is an old Cane Creek call that was made out of poplar, and I love those old calls. He quit making them out of that. He makes them out of mahogany now. They sound good, but I like that sound that those old ones got. But I don't think it much matters on the wood so much as the rest of the configuration of the call. The striker, I think, makes a heck of a lot more difference than what the call's made out of. And I really like tulip wood. It's one of my favorites for a striker. Macassar ebony is another good one. I've been using Derek Stuckey makes some from Obsession turkey calls, and I've been using his strikers for a long time, and man, they sound really good. In fact, I just picked up a few more when I was down there at Nashville. I used to buy a few more from them every year. I must have 100. And I really, really like that tulip wood striker.
I wish
it'll make about any pot calls sound good.
I wish you'd have told me that before the convention. Now we got to call online to get one.
Yeah. You ever lose a striker out there, Doc, and then you just spend another hour going back looking for it?
Oh my gosh, it's the worst feeling. Or
worst.
Yeah,
worst.
For me, lost a call you've had for like 30 years. I've had that happen once or twice. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's a sore subject with me.
Yes,
I lose a lot of stuff in the woods.
Why don't we ask our trivia question of Doc right now?
Now, hold on. Wait a minute. Before you start, I want you to ask me a better one than you asked Dave Owen.
Yeah, I agree.
He hung Dave out to dry really bad. Gosh.
I was disappointed.
That was
in
a
Dave.
killer.
Nobody knew the answer to that.
I had so many people come up to me at NWTF and say, I can't believe Indian hen. Everybody knew what an Indian
Oh, they
hen.
did not. You're just trying to get out now.
Richie, why don't you set up the segment real quick with our sponsor there?
Today's trivia is brought to you by Sheffield Financial. Fuel your Gamekeeper projects with financing for power sports, outdoor power equipment, and trailers. Begin your next conservation adventure at SheffieldFinancial.com.
All right, Richie, thank you. So, Mac, let's go with the question.
All right, Doc. So we're going to ask you a question, and the listener who left us a really good review, his name is Maddox H33. Will actually, if you get this right, he will get a Gamekeeper Edition turkey vest.
What a great prize!
Wow.
Nice.
So
Man.
So the guys at the Gamekeeper Fieldwear have given us 6 vests. So the next 6 weeks, we're going to give away a Gamekeeper a turkey vest.
Perfect.
So guys, if you'll go leave a review, you got a chance to win one. But also, they gave us a code. Anybody listening to this can go to Gamekeeper Fieldwear, type in the code, and get a 25% discount.
Nice.
What's that code, Mike?
The code is podcast25.
How about that?
And that gets you 25% off the turkey vest.
Podcast 25.
And it's a great turkey vest. It kind of got overshadowed last year by the Mr. Fox vest. It took all the hype.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
It did. But guys, I think if y'all go check this vest out, it's got a lot of features. You'll like it.
It has. I'm looking at one. It has a lot of zippered pockets, so you, if you're like me and Doc and Dudley, you can zip your calls up and not leave them sitting at the base of the tree.
Oh, I'll leave them anyway.
It does. It's got 14 pockets, actually.
Oh, wow.
All right, Doc, here we go.
Tee me up an easy one.
All right, so it's true or false. Owls eat everything whole or break it apart and swallow it. Their digestive system then breaks everything down, and if it can't be digested like a bone, fur, or cat collar, it is coughed back up in the form of a pellet. True or false?
I believe I would call that one true.
Nailed it.
There you go.
Anybody that's ever cleaned out a shooting house that had the window open all summer.
Owls
can
cough up
test it.
pellets
Yeah, can tell.
of what they didn't digest. And then scientists go and study those pellets, and they understand what the diet is.
So you can
comprised of.
see who came up with this question, Doc, by Bobby's fervor for this. You can always tell if it's a question and it's just nobody could make this up. It has to be true. And that's what Doc was thinking.
Yeah.
There's no way he could have made that up.
That's right.
I love the way you threw cat collar in there.
Yeah. So in my research for this question, turns out great horned owls
Like cats.
like cats.
My buddy down in Florida called me last week, and he says, I got some bad news and some good news. He says, the bad news is my pet gobbler got killed last night.
Mm.
And I said, that's too bad. But his name was Buddy, and you pull into Bill George's yard, and you'd say, hey, Buddy, and he'd gobble every time, day or night.
Oh, my God.
He's a neat old gobbler.
Oh.
He said, Buddy got killed last night, and there's just a pile of feathers there in the yard and his carcass. And I said, well, what's it look like? What killed him? And he says, well, his head and his throat was eaten. And I said, and he says, I think it was a coon. I said, no, I think it was an owl. Because the owl, when I was trapping all the time, if we get a muskrat in a trap, an owl would always eat the head and the neck first. Whereas if a mink, killed a muskrat that was in a trap, they eat from the butthole in, because a mink doesn't have the enzymes in its gut to digest its food, so it gets it from what it eats. So he starts in from the gut, whereas an owl would go from the head down. And I said, I think an owl killed Buddy. And he says, well, the breast is all good. So the good news of him dying is I'm going to go ahead and clean him. And at camp next week, we're going to have a meal out of Buddy.
Ultimate respect.
Thanks.
Oh, buddy.
What a way to go.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, we're gonna have Buddy for dinner one night.
There you go.
I've noticed that with my chickens. Like if a hawk catches one, they go to the head first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
hawks and owls.
surprising.
Yep.
Buzzard will do it too on a deer carcass. Starts on the eyes.
Well, we're doing a bonus podcast tomorrow on owls that actually will probably come out before this one comes out.
Who cooks for you all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Doc, goodness gracious, you're a lot of fun to be around. You've got a book that's can you tell us about this book so some of our listeners could get that?
Well, I just came out with the fourth one in the series. Turkey Tales and Tales from Across the USA, volumes 1 through 4. They're just a chronological rendition of a record of my life as a turkey hunter. It started before I hunted, and it kind of just goes, like I say, chronologically all the way through the years. The last one, I think, takes me up through 2018. And then Toxie and Daniel played that video of the upcoming film about Mr. Hayes and the Colonel, Kelly. And I'll tell you what, man, there wasn't a dry eye in that house. It was really just well done, inspirational. It put a lump in my throat. I forgot everything I intended to say from that point on. But that was the highlight of that seminar. I really appreciate them, and I can't wait to see the full length movie. It's going to be awesome.
It literally is a movie. It's a motion picture. They're just amazing. It's just going to be a couple of weeks, and we'll probably have Daniel or somebody on here to talk about it. So we release to the public, I think. I don't want to start a rumor, but I think the first week of March, somewhere in there. Well, but it's done.
So Doc, I was there. You did a great job describing your book and all that. It was very interesting, and I think people there were just love reading about turkeys, love hearing about turkey stories, and you've got a bunch of good ones, that's for sure.
Well, I appreciate Brent having me and Mossy Oak sponsoring everything. It's a good turnout. We've done it 2 years in a row. And it was a good time. Yeah,
Bottomland Book Club is what that. So guys, if you go to the NWTF next year, watch for that thing. It's one Saturday afternoon for about an hour. It's really entertaining.
It was amazing. So I feel it's winding down, Bobby. I got to say, Doc, that once we lost Bob Dixon, it taught me a lesson. So I'm not planning on going anywhere. I hope you don't, but I kind of blurt out to people all the time, how I feel about it. I just got to say that I'm so glad that you accomplished these things because it put you in the spotlight more. And it's not the turkey hunter. It's the guy that you are, the man that you are, that is so inspirational. The way you carry yourself, the way you tell stories, I could sit there and listen to it all day, honestly. And so I just appreciate how you handle yourself because it puts you on a pedestal as a role model. I know that's pressure, but all you have to do is just be yourself. The way you do everything is something worthy of people listening to. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
And you can thank authors like Bobby or Brent Rogers or Doc by support support them by getting the book and reading it. And I'll say this, you can support us by leaving a good review as well.
Yeah. So Doc, we are fans. Love talking to you. I feel like there's one more question.
Oh, there's always. I was going to ask him stuff like, is there any situation, and I know you hunt so much public ground, if you hear whether it's hens, gobblers, multiple gobblers, is there any situation at daylight where you tell yourself, this is going to be good, this tells me where to get? Is there anything when you hear it, you're just like, I feel a layup coming?
Well, there ain't ever a layup in turkey hunting.
Right.
But I don't know, if I got two gobblers gobbling their brains out and they're separated by about 200 yards, and I can get right in between them.
That is
and I got some hens right there around me. It doesn't get much better than that.
That is one thing that I was going to say too, because there's not many, and that's still not a layup. But there's so few things. Just like if you do this, you can count on doing that. But if they're two and they're far enough, if you can hear them, and especially if they're cutting each other, That's what I
Yeah.
found. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
get between them,
Yeah.
if you're wasting your time trying to call them at daylight. But if you can get between them without spooking them, just put your call up and get ready.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I love to get if I can get a hen that's with a gobbler, if I can get her cutting back at me, if she's really if she's hitting it hard, boy, that's good too. I mean, because she's probably going to more times than not, she's going to come looking for you. And I won't give her much. I'll give her little short 2-note cuts. You know, I don't want to say too much because a lot of times that hen will feel jealous and she'll take the gobbler away from you. You don't. That's the last thing you want. So, but if you can just get her mad enough to come looking for you, and she wants to express her dominance over you, that can be as good as it gets too, because that gobbler's going to come tagging right along with her.
That's my number one excuse. I always feel like the hens are taking the gobbler away from them.
Keep telling
and they do. That's a good excuse because they do.
You know, that's what I always. People talk about this bad turkey, always a bad, and it exists all over. But way more than that are bad hens. So think about over time. An older hen, how many times she may have been with him and shot over, you know, when somebody killed her boyfriend or somebody in the herd, or she's probably chances are been around that, someone calling and something getting shot at more than anybody. And so I personally believe the bad hen will drag them away from your calling a lot quicker than the gobbler, you know, leaves on his own.
I've never thought about that. That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They've seen it all.
Yeah, especially I can imagine on public land how many times that may have happened. And so that's another reason to be careful.
Yeah. And they can sure be jealous. They don't like to share the competition with other hens.
No, and boy, they can. You know, if you get one in, call one in, you better be wearing your mossy oak and sitting still because you don't need her seeing you.
No, and they're going to be
she's looking for you.
Oh yeah, yep. That's
Doc,
good
you got anything you want to ask us before we let you go?
No, you guys have been an inspiration to me for a long time, and I'm just thrilled to death to share a little time with you, tell some turkey hunting stories. That's what I'd rather do than anything. So,
well, we're gonna pile in that van with you one day and go somewhere, and then you'll get tired of it.
Take
real quick.
Maybe looking for a new ride. I've got 10 days before I leave, and I just got news from my mechanic a couple days ago. It needs about $12,000 to $14,000 worth of repairs. So I may be driving a.
We might have to pick
Subaru
him up
or something.
Well,
you might see me in a Volkswagen van or a Volkswagen Bug or something.
We just dropped a new motor in Landy's truck, I think.
Oh yeah, ready to go again.
Yep.
so if everybody's listening to this would buy his new book, that might help him get over the hump.
That's right.
Yeah.
For 23 cents a day.
Yeah.
Well, Doc, we thank the world of you, and we hope you have a great season. If you get anywhere close to us, please drop by and see us.
I will.
Yeah, we got a pretty good
I will.
cheeseburger here in town too.
We do.
So come see us.
That can draw me as well as anything.
So, guys, check out you get that 25% discount on at the Gamekeeper Field Wear on that vest, and please remember to go and sign up for the LS Gamekeeper Tractor giveaway.
Oh yeah,
That's a good deal.
it's a great deal.
Yeah, and share that with you. Well, you know, it might limit your ability to win if you share that.
Still share.
Come on,
Share
Bobby.
it anyway.
Share the good news.
Somebody's going to win the
Yeah,
track.
that's right.
Is the point. So, all right, guys, looking around the room, Lanny, you look like you've got somewhere you need to be. Toxie's got a fire dripping in the back of his truck right now, I bet.
Close. Yep. I have burn permits today, multiple ones. We're fixing to go light it up.
Drop it down.
Well, be careful
Doc.
out there.
Before I get out of here, I meant every word I said, so thank you for just being you. That's a great gift to all of us.
Thank you, Toxie. I appreciate it. You kind of can't tell you how much. I appreciate everything you've done for me over the years. And just, you're an inspiration.
If you want to thank someone, go look in the mirror. And good luck. And Bobby said that if you get through here, let us know ahead of time.
All right, I will do. Thank you, guys. I hope y'all have a nice, safe, and enjoyable spring. Call me anytime. We'll do it again.
Happy Florida.
There it is.
That
Let's get it
sounds
started.
Thanks, brothers.
Why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Richie. There he goes.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.